20th, 2025, City of Lincoln Regular Planning Commission meeting. Secretary, please, could we have a roll call?
Commissioner Herzog,
Here.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Here.
Commissioner Jackson,
Here.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Manning,
Here.
Vice Chair Johnson,
Here.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Here. We have a full quorum at the meeting this evening. That was item number 2. Item 3 is the Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked our Vice Chairman, Eric Johnson, to please lead us in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Eric. Item 4, agenda modifications. We do have 2 agenda modifications. Staff has asked that we move item 10A, Brown Act training, up the agenda to where item 6 is located. If there's no objection from any member of the commission, we will do that. Thank you. Item 5 is public comment on any non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. All speakers' time will be limited to 3 minutes unless extended by the chairperson. All comments or questions should be addressed to the chairperson, and in most cases, the commission is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item that is not appearing on the posted agenda, but may engage in brief discussion, provide direction to city staff, or schedule items for future meetings. Staff, do we have any public comments?
I do not see any hands raised online. I did not receive any cards, and I do not see any hands raised here in chambers.
Thank you. We'll move from item 5. We'll move to item 6, information items from the staff. And we will deal with item 10A, Brown Act training. Staff?
If you don't mind, Chair Gilbert, we'll go ahead and do the code diagnostics first, and then we'll do the Brown Act training.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Tonight, we have a presentation that will be given by Opticos Design, Inc. Just a little background, I'll just introduce it, and they'll be sharing on Zoom tonight and presenting to you all. Our zoning code, Title 18 in our municipal code, was adopted back in 1979. Over time, there's been the occasional update here and there, quick fixes, but there hasn't been a comprehensive update to that document since. We're running in 2025 now, so she's due for a bit of an update. So early this year, we contracted with Opticos to review our code, kind of see where things are going right, things are going wrong, and just kind of get a good analysis of the code as we see it today and provide some recommendations on where we can improve. So with that, I'll hand it over to Cecilia Kim and Roger Foreman, who are on Zoom tonight, to share a presentation and discuss their findings.
Great, thank you, Michaela. I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. I will send a request. I think I can share. There we go. All right. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see that.
Great, thank you. All right, so as Michaela mentioned, our firm Opticos did a pre-study of the citywide code update to really assess what it meant to update it for the future. And this is our key findings and recommendations summary presentation. So today I'll give a brief overview of the pre-study and then go into its organization and usability, some key criteria used for the assessment, suggested improvements to the standards, and then some improvements to the administrative procedures, and then end with that. So basically the study is called the Citywide Code Update Pre-Study. And it's a high-level analysis of Title 18, the zoning code of the Lincoln Municipal Code. And really the point was to assess the need for a comprehensive update and what could potentially be its benefits if it were updated. So the key questions that we looked at were whether or not the current structure and organization was effective, which content worked well and didn't need updating versus what needed to be replaced or substantially updated. Another question was whether the content was really clear in its intent and its requirements, and whether it effectively serves the community's needs. So to that end, a little bit of a little spoiler alert, the summary of recommendations is very high level. It really is meant to just quickly show you what we found, and then we'll go into detail. The first one is that we recommend reorganizing the content into appropriate divisions and chapters to make it really easy to find. The second one is to not fix what isn't broken. Actually, there were a lot of good points that we found in there, and there were minor things that needed to be improved, and we will get into those details. The third point is to better integrate it with other plans. The city does have a lot of other specific plans, general development plans, and as you know, the Lincoln Downtown Master Plan is coming up. So all of that being integrated together would really benefit the code. And then the fourth is to improve administrative procedures to streamline the review process. So some of the organizing themes for our findings and recommendations was the overall organization and usability of Title 18, what the improvements to standards would look like, including its clarity and effectiveness of the standards, and then the administrative procedures. So first I'll talk to you about the organization and usability of the zoning code Title 18. We looked at the structure of it to see whether it was really easy to navigate and find the information that you were looking for. We found that the current structure is a little bit difficult to locate specific information. It does use a similar structure as the one that we are recommending, but because of the way the articles and sections are referenced, it is a little bit more difficult to find with the current navigating system. So our proposed approach reduces articles and chapters in favor of more sections within chapters, and the proposed numbering of the referencing system lets the reader know which division is involved and more easily find that information. We also suggest reorganizing some of the content of Title 18, and this means redistributing what is already there into more appropriate sections. This avoids repetition of similar content and consolidates definitions in a single location so that that is easy to find, and also streamlines the presentation of allowed uses into one table rather than having it spread out in different portions, different parts of Title 18. So the point of all of these suggestions and recommendations is really threefold. It makes it easier to find the information. It avoids conflicting content so that when it is updated in the future, there is no conflict in those updates, and it makes it easier to use the zoning code for staff and for applicants. This is a little bit difficult to read, but the proposed organization of Title 18, the left side shows the current organization and the right side shows our proposed recommended organization. As you can see, the division titles are a little bit long, even though they are very detailed. Some of these are actually overlapping, and so we consolidated some of those. In addition, there are some new divisions which are actually just relocating information, for example, definitions from various current divisions into one division for the recommended organization. And we can get into that detail on that a little bit later as well. With that, I will hand it over to my colleague Roger Foreman to walk you through the key criteria for assessment.
Thanks, Cecilia. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So as we're going through the standards in detail, there are basically three questions to ask. One is what can be removed or replaced. As we mentioned, the code being as old as it is, some of the things are no longer useful or no longer relevant. And so those should be identified. But similarly, we also want to identify what is important to retain, like what are the pieces of this that are really necessary within Lincoln. And then thirdly, what could be improved? Like this would be things that are important to have, but maybe aren't working as they should and could be improved by updating the standards. So what would those look like? Some of the factors affecting the usability of the code have to do with the clarity and effectiveness of the standards. So as we're going through and making updates, we want to answer the question of whether the content effectively serves the community's needs and whether it's clear in its intent and its requirements. So some key questions to answer these. First is, do the allowed uses in each district provide the right level of specificity? Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to tell based on what's written, what exactly is allowed. Next is how the general plan is implemented across the community in terms of relating directly to the zoning code. And then there's a question of how will the downtown master plan impact the overall set of zoning districts? Because once the plan is implemented, it will replace the existing zoning within the project area. And so some of the existing zones may need to be changed, updated, or removed in response. So a few recommendations having to do with the relevance of the content is to modernize the introduction, to make everything clear from the outset, update and modernize the content for clarity and best practices, analyze the general plan's intended physical character and uses, and analyze the best fit districts for parcels remaining in the C and BP districts after the downtown master plan is implemented. Another piece that could benefit from more clarity is how the dimensional standards such as building height, length, footprint, and slope are applied. And if this is done with text and diagrams, it's a lot easier for applicants to understand where those dimensions come into play. So our recommendation is to clearly describe all these measurement methods in a single division of the code. Another recommendation is overall to present the content in a user-friendly format. We find that tables and diagrams are much easier to read and also help to avoid confusion and unintended interpretations. So this would be our recommendation for simplifying the content presentation. Next up is a very important topic in Lincoln because so much of the city is subject to these specific plans and general development plans. So when someone goes to develop in Lincoln, the question comes up of how they can reliably determine which development standards from either Title 18 or the specific plans and general development plans apply to any given site. So the specific plans and general development plans supersede certain standards of Title 18, but they also refer to the Lincoln Municipal Code or to related city standards in other cases. What this means is that you have a situation where neither Title 18 nor the plans give a complete picture of the development standards in effect on a given site. And so without reading through both the general development plan and Title 18, you don't necessarily know which standard is applicable. And even then, it's easy to make errors. So our recommendation here is that Title 18 itself should clarify the relationship between the zoning code and the specific plans and general development plans. And also, in addition, the city should maintain a matrix showing which topics are regulated in each specific plan or general development plan, so that you can see at a glance which parts of that code are applicable and which parts you'll need to refer to Title 18 for. And this is an example of what that matrix could look like. Next up, the administrative procedures. With the big push toward objective design standards in California, that often results in standards being very clear, but also somewhat rigid. So what we recommend is for the code to have a built-in measure to allow for a certain amount of flexibility to those standards where existing conditions preclude strict application, or whether a strict application of the standards would lead to unintended outcomes. So as long as the standards for the adjustment are objective and the criteria for applying it are objective, the amount of deviation is objective, that way it can still eliminate the need for a negotiated process. So this should be incorporated into administrative provisions. Another recommendation is not to allow applicants to ignore the standards. Oftentimes someone will come in with a pre-designed project and expect that city staff will rationalize it with Title 18. But that's really requiring the city staff to take on a role that is not their responsibility. So we recommend that once the code is updated, once you have the objective standards, that applicants be held responsible for demonstrating compliance with the standards. And one way to help with that is to create a guide to the code that they can follow step by step to ensure that they'll be delivering a compliant project. So the next steps in this project, first will be to finalize the study memo. And then following the findings and recommendations, Lincoln would need to initiate a zoning code update. And in the course of that process, to organize a working group of local community members and city staff to work through the recommendations. So thank you very much. And we welcome your feedback.
So just to kind of wrap things up, what we'll be doing essentially is bringing this to council for their feedback. Ultimately, what we want is the direction from council to initiate that contract. It's going to be a lengthy and time-consuming process, so we'll have to go through that and bring that contract to council as well for it, the ultimate approval and to be able to kickstart this project.
I have a couple questions. What is the timeline approximately for us to go through this whole process?
I mean, we won't know yet until we move forward with an agreement to do this update. But as Michaela said, you know, we're looking at a pretty extensive reorganization of the existing code, as well as kind of trying to take care of some of the pain points that we've pointed out as staff and as developers from the development community. So it's going to take a little while.
So one comment that I would like to stress is that we consider, as we go through this process of having we've done this with other things in the city when I was on the council. We have a work session or study session, whatever you want to call it, with some developers and some builders as we go through the process, so they can give us their input. Because, they're the people that are going to be mostly impacted by this. Maybe we can figure out somebody that would represent the average homeowner or whatever, but the majority of the big work that we do in the city is through developers. And I found it very valuable. I sat on a subcommittee with Paul Joyner, and we took this input, which we then brought back to the city council. This was 8 years ago, maybe. And we got a lot of very good suggestions through the eyes of a developer who had to live with the document once we were finished with it. And it was much better to get their input early on during the process than to hand them the document that has now been created. And so now they want to change something in the document. So that would just be a recommendation on my part.
Yeah, we're actually really well connected with the BIA. In fact, they've recently formed an industry working group that meets on a monthly basis here at City Hall and with city staff. And this would be something that we would add to the agenda and circulate out to them during the process of the update.
Great, and I'd love to see one or two of our major developers here in the community where they're developing thousands of homes. I'd like to.
They are members of that working group. I mean,
I know they're members of the organization.
no, not of the organization, of that working group meeting.
Perfect. I'm a happy camper now. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Please.
As a user of the,
Mike.
sorry. As at least a infrequent user of the code, I find the most important thing is actually the search process. And while I don't certainly discount the need for reducing the inconsistencies and that sort of thing, I think how information is searched, what instrument is used, I think is of great value. For example, if you just fit on, I'm oversimplifying, but if you were to feed into an AI program, the municipal code and all its updates and the general plans and specific plans that are out there, and then just asked a question, well, what is in this area of the city, what is allowable in a residential multifamily zone? It would be right there. And then, are you looking at that as well, the search ability?
So part of the complexity with the code and our specific plan, general development plans, like Roger mentioned, was there's so many layers right now. And right now, as the zoning code is listed, it really doesn't have any reference to specific plans, GDPs whatsoever. So people who aren't familiar with how the city works and what area of the city that they're in just would naturally refer to the zoning code first. And they think that's the end all be all, especially since there's no reference. So we are trying to kind of create a matrix to kind of keep track of who governs what. Roger showed a little bit of it on screen, and it is overwhelming really to look at. And this is part of staff's dilemma too, of we're the ones searching for these standards as well. We have about 30, maybe 40 general development plans that have standards, and I can't remember those off the top of my head of what standards refer to what, if it's the general development plan or if it just refers to the Lincoln Municipal Code. So we are looking at that. Not sure if our technology would be able to create one comprehensive document that has every single thing listed in there, but we are aware that that is one of the issues we've come across, and we are trying to make this as user-friendly as possible.
Are you?
Our IT department has very strong opinions on AI. That it is a great tool, but using an off-the-shelf or even a commonly available AI generating tool opens the city up to security risks and liability. And so they are considering what could be used in a safe manner but it is not a very large percentage of what's currently available to the general public because it does, again, it presents too great of a risk.
Yeah, the city does have the zoning map online. So the ideal situation would be through a combination of that tool, through the code TOC, and some sort of quick code guide that we would include early on in the code, that you would be able to be directed to all the information that you needed.
I have a question. Are you done?
Yeah.
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My question is, on the zoning code update, are we just updating the actual code or will we be reevaluating some of the zoning within our city?
So we're not looking at the zoning map to change any designations. That's a different process that we'd have to go to. We're just looking at the standards and seeing what needs to be fixed or updated.
Is there any plan on looking at zoning updates within our city limits?
Well, as part of the downtown master plan, we will be looking at the zoning of the downtown area. But as far as like citywide, like Michaela mentioned, there are several GDPs within the city. And there ends it up Rod and Les Mill. We're looking for him to shake his head at me. Go ahead, shake your head. Give your comment, please.
Well, if there, some of our codes, districts are like the BP zone. It's over the years has been challenging to apply because they're kind of a middle ground transitional district. So it's always been challenging to apply that. So where it presents opportunities to look at those districts that might be opportunity to change it, we can look at that some more. But really, it's pretty much set at the moment. Is a lot of the vast of our zoning are within the villages, and the ones that are adopted at least. And so we have a certain area that are limited in the core Lincoln area, but there is opportunities. We could look at that some more as part of our exercise. But for the most part, it's pretty much set. Maybe some kind of refining, maybe some tweaking here and there, but not necessarily creating a new palette, you could say.
I think looking at our zoning and taking a different approach to that and looking at how we could do a better job with what we have zoned right now, I think it's a critical area for the success of the city. And it's something that I think our city should take have a serious discussion about. I mean, just at this diocese right here and things that we've debated, a lot of our debates are due to this broad, general commercial zoning that we've put across most of our city that forces us to make decisions on the spot. And it puts our city in a situation where there's a lot of great businesses and ideas that want to come into our city, but sometimes they're not in the right spot. And I feel like, you look at the debate about the hotel, for example, right? If we had highway commercial in our city, right? Or if we had neighborhood commercial and where we got ahead of it and we decided what we wanted where, so that we could actually plan out what our city should look like, especially since we have a village concept, it would eliminate a lot of those debates that we have to have. We just had a debate about the 12 Bridges Shopping Center that in reality, if you go back and look at the 12 Bridges master plan, that shopping center was really meant to be a office space when you really read what it was. But there's a little bit of a definition in there that opened it up to what it's going to become. And that's why we have some of our infrastructure issues with traffic getting into it, because the infrastructure was built for a different use at the time. If we as a city got better at our zoning and defined it a little bit better, it would give future investors a better opportunity to know exactly where to put their businesses, and it would eliminate a lot of the stress and a lot of debates that we have here in the Planning Commission. And it's something I think the city needs to take a hard look at. And if we're not taking a hard look at, I would highly, highly encourage you guys to do it.
And to your point, now we're going into the more in-depth, right? Not just the designation, but also the list of uses, the processes, the allowed uses and conditional allowed uses, the standards. Now we're going in depth in there. But yeah, I do see your point that if there's an opportunity to do that as part of exercise, we'll look into that.
And from my understanding, I think there was a time where we had more zoning, like more specific zoning, but we got rid of it because commercial investment in the city was slow. But that wasn't a city issue. That was an economy issue, right? And I think at the time, that was probably something that needed to happen. But I think we're past that now and being a little bit more specific, like just thinking of the hotel debate, right? If we had highway commercial in places where we wanted to put hotels, it wouldn't have been such a highly contested debate within our city. It would have already been determined. And that investor that I love that they came in and invested in our city, but they would have known exactly where to do it. And I think more investors would be more open to coming into the city because they would know they wouldn't have so much of an uphill battle to hope that all the time and effort and due diligence to get a project to us, right? They all run the risk of us saying no, right? If it's not specific or if they need a special use permit for it, where we could get to that beforehand by having more specific zoning.
And I think that's a really great policy discussion, but not part of what we're talking about this evening at this moment.
Well, it gives me a really good opportunity to bring it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments, and even though we're specifically not on it at the moment, it's needs to be heard in this community. Suggesting would make life easier for the developers, the builders, the staff, planning commission, city council, everybody, if we had a little better defined what was where, even though I sat on the city council 40 years ago where we had a world-renowned master plan, and by the time we got to the end of it, we were building 24-story building that we never envisioned would be done, and talk about traffic problems. But, you know as well as I do, the economy ebbs and tides. Condos are popular, and then single families popular, and then certain kind of regional shopping centers are popular, and now they're closing them down. So the best laid plans of mice and men, I guess what I'm going to say. You should take into consideration his comments very strongly, but at the same time, we got to be flexible in the future because Village 5 is going to take 20 years to build, and I have no idea what the last 5 or 10 years is going to look like. Maybe I have some idea because they're going to cut ground next year, some idea of what will be there at the beginning, but who knows how we'll be shopping or living 20 years from now.
I have a question.
Please.
Thank you, Roger and Cecilia, for your presentation. Appreciate that. Not surprised by a lot of what you shared. I think a lot of us expected that. I do think we need to get this work done quickly or get started on it. I know it will take some time. One question that I have is you mentioned that maybe broadening of objectives and administrative maybe authority. That's the one that maybe is unclear to me from your recommendation. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Sure, I can do that. So basically what Roger was saying was that California as a state is pushing towards objective standards to be the baseline for regulations throughout the state. And because of this push toward more housing production, they're saying that streamlined approval processes, which do have a major impact on development, is part of the issue. And that's why we need objective standards to allow streamlined design processes or streamlined approval processes, excuse me. And so to that end, when there are objective standards, it's very clear whether you are meeting it or not meeting it, right? But that objectiveness does sometimes come with some rigidness to the standard. So to provide some flexibility in there, what our company does is we provide a section that has adjustments due to certain hardships that typically developers might use a variance or a waiver or some kind of other negotiating tool for, and already have that built in to provide that flexibility in there. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I'm familiar with that at the county level. We dealt with objectives and streamlined approval, and that just makes me a little concerned. So I just want to make sure, I'd like to see an example, but I'm sure city council will probably address that.
And again, at this point in time, these are recommendations. They are not the end all be all. So we'll definitely have plenty of opportunities throughout the review process to get feedback and see what works for our city. And they can recommend it, but we might not be a fan of it. So we do have that discretion.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the? Well, thank you very much for your presentation. And I guess we'll see you sometime in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See now. Next item would be the Brown Act training. Is that what staff would like to deal with now?
So just real quickly, by way of introduction, you all know me, Christine Mollenkopf. I'm your city attorney, and I have been so pleased to be able to expand the services that my office is able to provide to all of our internal clients, our departments and committees. And that has been with the assistance of Christy McKinney joining my office. She's been with me now for about 6 months. She is new to the practice of law, passed the bar last November from our own local law school, Lincoln Law School. She is a local resident. She just graduated her triplets from high school, and they're off starting college at Sierra College. And she has one still at home, but she has been an absolute delight to work with. And I always tell the story that when she was interviewing, one of the things she said is she really enjoys giving trainings and teaching. And so I said, well, I have the perfect first assignment for you. So she's been giving this presentation at all of the committees, just to give them a quick refresher on Brown Act and compliance. And so without further ado, Christy McKinney.
Welcome. And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. This is my first time presenting in this fancy room, so I'm very excited. So I hope you're ready to entirely shift gears from what we were just talking about. So we are going to be covering the Brown Act, and if you guys have been on committees for any length of time, you are probably familiar with the Brown Act. I was not when I started this job. They don't teach it to you in law school, so this is my on-the-job training here. So because I know you guys are probably familiar with it and you've probably heard some presentations, I tried to make it a little exciting. So we're going with a 50s theme because the Brown Act originated in the 50s. So we're going to try to jazz it up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to set the stage for the 1950s, which brought us rock and roll and Elvis and Chuck Berry and polka dots and saddle shoes. We've got some very iconic movies like Singing in the Rain, Roman Holiday, and June Cleaver gave us all unrealistic expectations of women cleaning their houses wearing heels and pearls. So that's the vibe. All right, in California, it was a time of unparalleled growth, lots of cultural excitement, and there was also a lot of really iconic slang phrases, which I have sprinkled throughout the presentation for your listening pleasure. All right, so these are the things we're going to be covering. We're going to be talking about the Brown Act and what it is and what's the legislature and legislative branch, meetings, agendas, public comments, etc. We're going to cover it all. All right, so first of all, what is the Brown Act? As you guys probably know, it is a body of law that was made in California. It's California specific. And it was enacted with the idea that the government agencies exist to serve the public, and the public needs to know what's going on in the government and how the decisions are being made. Prior to 1952, there was kind of like all kinds of things going on and in the government agencies, and nobody could keep track of what was going on. So to highlight the problem, a reporter published a 10-part series called Your Secret Government. And in response to this, Mr. Ralph M. Brown created the Brown Act and named it after himself, because of course. So the goal of the Brown Act is really that the government should not hide what they're doing. They should be out in the open, not making backroom deals. And this is a quote. I won't read it for you because you can read. All right, so generally speaking, the Brown Act requires all local government agencies to be, branches, committees, to be open to the public, to have public participation, to post their agendas, and to allow for public comments. And all local legislative bodies of the government need to follow the Brown Act rules. And this includes city councils, board of supervisors, school boards, school districts, etc. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to what is a legislative body for purposes of the Brown Act. So this can be a governing body of a local agency, such as city council, an agency created by statute, or any committee, board or commission created by a local agency, which would be you guys. So what is a committee? You guys are a committee. And here is the general definition of it created by attorneys. It's just a congregation and majority of members where you get together and you hear and discuss things relevant to your subject matter. The things that are not a legislative body for the purposes of the Brown Act would be a temporary advisory committee. So if a few of you were on a committee that was just for a single purpose, you're researching something and coming back to the committee, those are not considered a Brown or a legislative body for Brown Act purposes. Or groups just put together to decide a single thing and then they are done. Are subcommittees subject to the Brown Act? The best answer to this is a lawyer answer, which is it depends. So sometimes the answer is yes, when it's a permanent subcommittee. So if it's a permanent ongoing subcommittee, those have to abide by the Brown Act rules. But if it is not, if it's just a limited duration, if they're just together for one single purpose and then they're going to finish and be dispersed, then they are not subject to the Brown Act rules. So subcommittees, interestingly, are not specifically authorized by the Lincoln Municipal Code. So you guys are welcome to make subcommittees, but we would recommend that you are just doing a temporary type of subcommittee that has a single purpose and then disperses. So a great thing about these types of subcommittees are that they're not subject to the Brown Act, which means that they have more flexibility with their scheduling, having meetings, they can use Zoom more easily, and there is not a requirement to publish their agendas to the public. Okay, now we're going to talk about meetings. First of all, what is a meeting? It's exactly what you think it is. It's just you guys getting together. It's a majority of your committee members talking about your subject matter jurisdiction. But it can also be what you might not think it is. And that is a series of communications of any kind, directly or indirectly, that discusses a business item within your subject body's subject matter jurisdiction, sorry. So there are 4 different types of meetings: regular, which is what we're doing tonight, There's special meetings, emergency, or adjourned meetings. And for the most part, you're not going to really need to worry about those other three. Things that are not considered meetings for the Brown Act purposes are conferences, meetings of separate legislative bodies, individual contacts, community meetings, or social or ceremonial occasions. So here's where you need to be careful, is you are cruising for a bruising if you are participating in collective briefings. And that is like where everybody's getting together and or like a quorum of your decision makers, and you're getting together and you're pre-talking about something that's going to come before your body. So don't do that. You can also get in trouble if you participate in a serial meeting, which is essentially just a majority of your decision makers have talked about it amongst themselves around and come to a general consensus before it's brought to the public. So here's an example of a type of serial meeting. This is called a daisy chain meeting. Committee member Joni calls committee member Danny to dish about a new dress shop being proposed to their committee. She thinks it's the bee's knees. Committee member Danny then calls committee member Gloria. He tells her about the new dress shop. His wife is cranked about the idea. Committee member Gloria has flipped her lid over the idea and immediately calls committee member John to ask for his support. Committee member John is not too keen on the idea because he doesn't want his wife to spend more money on dresses. But since everybody else has agreed, he gives his approval. Another example of a serial meeting is a hub and spoke meeting. And the example here is Commissioner Judy calls Commissioner Jeff to discuss a matter coming before Planning Commission. She then calls all the other commissioners. So when you get together at an informal gathering, such as going to lunch or coffee, you also need to be careful because that could violate the Brown Act if you are discussing agency business, because the public is not able to participate in that. Other types of things that are considered meetings that you might not think about are conference calls. You guys are all, or a quorum of you is in a conference call with somebody, unless you're talking not about this. Or emails, group emails. You want to be careful not to reply all. Or texting is also follows that same thought process as emails. So no group texts, no text chains, no group emails. Nobody likes those anyways. And social media. So you can't use social media to discuss the business that's coming before Planning Commission. And you even have to be careful about liking comments or using emojis on Facebook or wherever, because those can be considered having a conversation or a meeting. All right, so now we're going to move on to meetings. The first rule of being on a committee is that you have to make the scene. You have to show up. A committee member may not have, according to the Lincoln Municipal Code, more than 25% without cause absences from the meetings. So for example, if your commission meets once a month, you may not have more than 3 without cause absences. And we'll go into what that means in a minute. So here, this is the Lincoln Municipal Code where this rule is laid out. Okay, with cause versus without cause. With cause absences are things like, generally are things that are within your scheduling control. So, not within your scheduling control, such as illnesses, injuries, hospitalization, required business travel, or those types of unavoidable situations. Without cause absences are things that are within your scheduling control generally. And these are things like family vacations, hair appointments, girls' nights out, or you just are on a really hot streak at the casino and you don't want to leave. Those are considered without cause absences. So a gangbusters committee member communicates with the city clerk prior to the meeting if they have to be absent for some reason, because the city clerk is the one who's keeping attendance, generally. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about Zoom attendance. One of the benefits that came from the pandemic is that it opened up the possibility for being able to use Zoom for things, which is great. And we, as you know, have all of our meetings available to the public via Zoom, so it allows for more public participation, which is great. But as a member of the committee or the board or whatever, you are subject to sort of different rules when it comes to Zoom. So you are allowed, if you're going to be absent, you are allowed to come participate via Zoom if you would like to, because it's open to the public and anybody can do that. But generally, if you want your attendance to count, it needs to be in person. So you can show up on Zoom, but it's not going to count towards being in attendance unless you follow some very specific procedures for how to do that. So if you are going to be on a vacation and you don't want that family vacation to count towards an absence or without cause absence, what you would need to do is let the city clerk know at least 2 weeks in advance prior to the meeting that you're going to be absent, because then what the city clerk does is she has to put the location of where you are into the agenda. So your location has to be on the agenda. And then while you're at that location, you have to allow for public comment, which means the public has to be available to you at your location. And then the agenda must also be posted at your location. So if you were going to Hawaii, get in a hotel, you would have to let them know, and then you could do it, but we would recommend that you're not doing it from your house because your address would have to be posted publicly. Or if you're doing it from a hotel, get a conference room, because then you don't want your hotel room to be publicly, like for the public to come there. So if you're going to do that, 2 weeks ahead of time to the city clerk. So what happens if you have over 25% of missed committee meetings? If you are absent without cause for more than 25%, you are subject to being removed from your committee. And it will make you sit in the back of the room with the dunce cap on. Not even any laughter. Come on. Okay, so next we're going to talk about agendas. So agendas, you guys might be, I was interested to know this. Generally speaking, an agenda is created by the city staff, whoever your city staff person is, who's on your committee, with the input of the board. The timing for this, Brown Act requires for the agendas to be posted to the public at least 72 hours prior to the meeting. So what that means that we like to do as the city, if your meeting is on a Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, we like to post publicly the agenda on the Friday prior, which means that city staff needs to have all the information prior posted, prior to, so in enough time to be able to post by Friday. The agenda sections here, I won't read them, they're on your agenda, but this is generally the sections that are on each agenda to keep them pretty standard. Okay. Next important thing to mention is that it's important to follow the order of the agenda, Now, lest you think we are hypocritical for changing the order of the agenda tonight, I just want to point out that the way that it happened tonight was appropriate because it was discussed ahead of time. It was announced at the beginning of the meeting, allowed for any objections or anything like that. That was the good way to do it. It's good. Nice job. So it's important to generally follow the order of the agenda for two reasons. One, because the city clerk or whoever is keeping the minutes needs to be able to take accurate minutes, and following the agenda helps to be able to get accurate minutes. Secondly, it also helps the public because they need, if they're there to make a comment on something that's on the agenda, and then we're suddenly changing the order of everything, that makes it really difficult for them to be able to make their comments. Speaking of public comments, as you are aware, each public meeting is required to allow for public comment. But there's different rules depending on where the public comments are in the agenda. So at the beginning of the meeting, there's always a section to allow for public comments that are not on the agenda, but are within the subject matter of your jurisdiction. And then on items that are on the agenda under new and continuing business, these items, unless you're voting on them, you do not have to allow for public comment. You may allow for public comment, that's up to the chair, but you do not have to. So regardless of where these public comments are happening, it could be at the beginning, on non-agenda items, or on items being voted for, or if the chair is giving permission for it. There are certain rules and procedures for the allowing of public comments. So it's important to know that if you're going to open the floor for public comments, you may not discriminate, and you have to allow for all the public comments. So if you open the floor, everybody who wants to make a comment gets to make a comment. You can't say, oh, I like this person, I'm gonna let them make their comments. Oh, that person's crazy, we're gonna, sorry, talking with my hands too much. We're not, that person's crazy, we're not gonna let them speak. If you're gonna open the floor, you have to let everybody speak. But you may regulate it in some ways. So you may ask some questions, or you have some comments maybe, or you could ask for this topic. If it's not something that's on the agenda, but it's interesting, you could ask for that to be placed on an agenda later. You can also regulate the topic of conversation. So if you guys are planning commission and somebody comes up to talk about the airport, you can say, hey, this is not the appropriate place for that. You can also limit the time that they have, which generally we give people about 3 minutes. So those are all things that you can do. Okay, so when you are voting, it is very important that first, before you vote, before you take any action on an item, it has to actually be on the agenda. It has to be on the agenda listed under new and continuing business. Second, you have to open it up for public comment before you vote. And then after that, you can vote. But those are important. So in other words, if somebody comes up and during public comment at the very beginning on a non-agenda item, please don't start a lengthy discussion about that topic and then just decide to start voting on that. That is the wrong way to do it. And that concludes my presentation. Do you guys have any comments, concerns, questions?
No question, but your imagination is fantastic. You made it fun. You used a great slide template, and that is appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, well, no questions. I did such a good job. I covered everything.
I do have a question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I was getting away.
I was shell shocked. that you did.
The Theme and Naming Committee.
The what?
Theme and Naming Committee established by the council. Less than a majority of this board meets on a kind of an ad hoc basis as needed. Is it a public meeting?
No. She covered that in her presentation.
Okay, just wanted to get down to a specific question.
No? I don't know what that is.
I think you
Um,
were looking at your computer or something
Maybe
else.
so. maybe so.
The tank would be considered an ad hoc committee because it is comprised of fewer than a majority of the planning commissioners and members of the public.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's see, I gotta get back to the agenda. I think we're on 7, disclosure of ex parte communication. Right, okay, I'll start here. Anybody have ex parte communication?
No.
This end? 0. Okay, we'll move to item number 8, consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine business and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a request is made to remove a specific item or separate action is received. Any items removed will be considered after the remainder of the consent agenda. Do any of my colleagues wish to remove an item from the consent agenda?
No, but I have a request to do them separately because I need to abstain from one.
Do them separate. Anybody from the public wish to pull an item? Separate discussion.
I don't see any hands raised online and no hands raised in the chambers.
Okay, so we'll take it this way. Item 8A, review and approve the May 21st, 2025 meeting minutes.
Move approval?
Second. We have a motion and a second. You need a voice vote?
Voice call is perfect.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, review and approve the June 18, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the June 18th meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Yes,
Have to say it.
Same.
I abstain. Abstain.
2 abstentions. Please note that.
Tony,
I asked you to speak is because the people at home can't necessarily see your hands, so.
I better abstain then.
Okay,
You need
motion
another
passes.
second.
I'll second.
You'll need another second. I need to abstain too.
I'll second. Tony had to abstain, so he couldn't.
Okay, yeah, so we have a motion and a second. You want us to vote again?
no, not necessarily. Voice call is everything's, okay,
Good,
thank
good.
you.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. A public hearing. A Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map, time extension, public hearing to consider the request of a time extension to an approved tentative subdivision map, Lincoln Place, for an additional 2 years with a new map expiring on September 12th, 2027. Owner applicant, Jenny A. Hoffman Trust. Staff report, please.
Yeah, good evening, Planning Commissioners. Efren Sanchez, Senior Planner with Community Development Department. The project we have before you is a 2-year time extension request to the previously approved Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map submitted by the Hoffman Trust. In September 2023, City Council approved the Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map project under Resolution 2023-173 to subdivide 2 residential parcels totaling 5 acres into 21 single-family lots with 3 landscape lots. In April 2025, the applicant timely filed their first discretionary time extension request to extend the map's expiration by 2 more years. The project is located near the southwest corner of Nicholas Road and Joyner Parkway. The property has a general plan land use designation of low density residential, LDR, and is zoned R1 single family residential. Image on the left is the aerial photo of the project site highlighted in blue. Image on the right is the tentative subdivision map. The extension requests must be reviewed by the Planning Commission, who is responsible for forwarding a recommendation to City Council. The applicant has shown a sustained effort to meet the requirements of the map by anticipating the time needed to process a final map. The time extension will provide additional time for the applicant to satisfy the conditions of approval, get improvement plans reviewed and approved, and ultimately record the final map. This is the first discretionary time extension request for this tentative map. According to our Lincoln Municipal Code, a total of 6 years are allowed for discretionary time extensions. In the event the final map is still in process by the time the 2-year time extension is set to expire, the applicant can request for a second discretionary time extension of 4 years. The approved map remains consistent with the applicable standards of the general plan, zoning, and subdivision ordinance. Development Engineering recommends minor text amendments to condition of approval number 13 as part of the time extension application. The text amendments takes into consideration the efforts the applicant has made towards executing this particular condition that you see on the screen. The applicant submitted the legal description and plat maps. However, the execution of the irrevocable offer of dedication for the public street easement connection to the west of Lincoln's Place is still pending. The proposed text amendments are shown in strike-through deletions and underline additions. Staff coordinated with the applicant team, who has also agreed with the proposed modifications to condition of approval number 13 as shown on the screen. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing and consider the information and findings in the staff report, as well as public comments, and recommend City Council adopt a resolution. 1, determining that no additional environmental analysis is required, and 2, approve 2-year time extensions for the approved Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map, subject to the revised conditions of approval as seen in attachment 1. That concludes my presentation, and also a member of the applicant team, David Cobbs with Baker Williams Engineering, is here in the audience, and if you have any additional questions for us, please let us know.
Any of the commissioners have questions for staff?
Just curious on why we have a delay, why we have the extension that's in front of us now. Are people still living in those 2 dwellings that are, make up those 2 lots?
I believe the houses are, one of the houses is still there, the other one's caught on fire. But it's just like, they're trying to identify if they're gonna, I guess I don't want to speak for the applicant. Yeah.
Name's David Cobbs. I'm with the Baker Williams Engineering Group. And to answer your question, there are 3 buyers currently looking at the properties, because there's another tentative subdivision map that's next door that they're trying to coordinate the development. So it's happening, hopefully. It's really economy dependent.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
No questions before I open the public hearing? Do you have any comments you wanted to add now, or I'll give you an opportunity after
Yeah.
our public hearing?
No comments. Wonderful work by Efren. I wanted to thank him for working on through the condition that was changed, and nothing additional.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak to this agenda item?
I do not see any hands raised online, and I do not see any hands raised here in chambers.
Thank you. Close the public hearing. I'll bring it back to the commission for your thoughts and possible action. Terry, please.
When, when this was before us recently, I raised the question relative to the sewer easement that is along the western edge of the project and asked if that, that easement could be allowed for both a sewer extension, as was conditioned, and a trail easement as well. And since have the opportunity to do some modifications, I personally would like to see that added.
Madam Attorney, could you please comment on that?
Yes, this is purely for a map extension. The map has already been approved. It's just extending the life of the map for 2 more years.
But we are making changes. And this is one that I would request that be made. Did I misrepresent that?
Yes, slightly. The easement that you're referring to, that was for the other project, Lincoln 14, which surrounds this project. If I could pull up the map again for you.
Okay, it was my understanding that you're making a modification of the condition.
Yes, but that easement is not part of this project, is what Ephraim was just saying.
Oh, I see.
It's the project that surrounds it, wraps around it.
Okay.
And this is not the appropriate forum to be making changes to a map such as this because it would need to be publicly noticed, as per the Brown Act presentation we just had.
Exactly. That's why I asked you to comment, Madam Attorney. Any other questions before we move on? Chair will entertain a motion.
Okay, I move to approve to determine that no additional environmental, let's see, are we on the right one here? I believe so. Environmental analysis pursuant of CEQA is required and a resolution approving a 2-year time extension for the approved Lincoln Place tentative subdivision map, subject to the revised conditions of approval.
I need a second.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Manning,
Yes.
Vice Chair Johnson,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you for being here this evening. Good luck. Okay. Nine B, the Event Center, a conditional use permit application to operate a live music venue, conduct sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages, and determination of public convenience or necessity within an existing building located at 645 Fifth Street, Bierman Building in downtown Lincoln. The proposed land use includes hosting ticketed performances and private events such as weddings, fundraisers, and other similar gatherings. Staff report, please.
Hello again, Efrain Sanchez, Senior Planner with Community Development Department. Yeah, like you mentioned, the project we have before you is a conditional use permit application to operate live music venue, conduct sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages, and determination of public convenience and necessity within an existing building located at 645 Fifth Street in downtown Lincoln. The proposed land use includes hosting ticketed performances and private events such as weddings, fundraisers, and other similar gatherings. On July 1st, 2025, Stephen Pagano, owner of Rockstar Academy, filed this conditional use permit application request. The CUP/PCN includes a request to allow on-site sale and consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits in connection with the music entertainment use. The project will operate within an existing 12,000 square foot 3-story building known as the Bierman Building or Oddfellows in downtown Lincoln. The property has a general plan land use designation of community commercial and is zoned commercial. The existing building is surrounded by other commercial uses such as Simple Pleasures Restaurant and Bierman Plaza to the north, Lincoln Family Martial Arts Academy to the east, Field Haven Marketplace Thrift Store to the south, and Jensen Smith Certified Public Accountants to the west. The Bierman Building relies on street parking and nearby public parking lots for its patrons, similar to other businesses in downtown Lincoln. And as you can see, here's just an elevation of the building, and then the image on the right is where the highlighted in blue is the actual building footprint that covers the entire lot. The event center intends to utilize the second floor ballroom to bring in entertainment uses such as live music, theaters, and comedy shows. It will also have the option to host weddings, private parties, and corporate events. The proposed land use of ticketed performances and private events such as weddings, fundraisers, and other similar gatherings trigger the need for a conditional use permit, as the land use is not specifically allowed by right in the commercial district. The applicant is seeking a Type 90 license from the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control Board, ABC. This type of license authorizes the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits at retail for consumption on the premises in a music entertainment facility. Alcohol service would be limited to scheduled events anticipated to occur 1 to 4 nights per week, primarily on weekends during performances and private events in accordance with ABC regulations. Besides the potential external signage on the wall, the event center does not propose any other exterior modifications to the building. The sale of alcoholic beverages beyond a bona fide restaurant, Type 41, requires a conditional use permit. Similarly, a public convenience and necessity PCN analysis is required for subsequent ABC licensing for hard liquor to ensure it does not significantly contribute to any existing oversaturation of such licenses. Staff has researched history of the project site and obtained ABC licensing information for the surrounding area. There's a total of 20 active alcohol licenses within the downtown area. The event center project site is located approximately 400 feet from the nearest church, 0.3 miles from the nearest park, which is McBean Park, and 0.3 miles from the nearest school, which is Lincoln High School. The police chief conducted a review of the records from the past 5 years at or around the project site. The police chief stated that there has not been anything out of the ordinary or excessive at this address. Police chief noted that while a few alcohol-related incidents have occurred, they were typical for a bar or restaurant, and he has no heightened concerns about the facility's proposed uses. The event center anticipates a seating capacity of 150 guests for live music events or weddings. Lincoln Municipal Code indicates 1 parking space is required for every 5 seats, plus 1 additional space for every 2 employees. Based on the proposed capacity of 150 guests and 2 to 4 employees per shift, the required off-street parking would total 32 spaces. However, this parking requirement applies only to new development, new construction, or physical expansion of a building. Because the event center will occupy an existing downtown building with no proposed expansion, no new off-street parking spaces is required under Lincoln Municipal Code Section 18.44.020. Downtown Lincoln has an existing public parking lot approximately 300 feet southeast from the project site. The public parking lot located at 439 F Street has a combined capacity of 68 vehicles, and it is also around the corner from the Bierman Building. The Bierman Building, like other businesses in downtown, rely on street parking and nearby parking lots for its patrons. The event center has been reviewed and found consistent with the applicable policies and standards of the City of Lincoln General Plan. For example, Economic Development Policy ED.6.1, Downtown Commercial Area, emphasizes enhancing the downtown commercial district to create a vibrant retail, business, and entertainment hub. The proposed live music event center aligns with this policy by adding another entertainment venue for both local residents and visitors of downtown Lincoln. So that's how this project is consistent with the general plan. CUP findings. Number one, within a 500 radius, there's an existing restaurant offering on-site alcohol service, including Lincoln Gardens, Soli's, and Old Town Pizza. The Civic Auditorium, a nearby performance venue, is rented by local performing arts groups. Similarly, the Women's Club of Lincoln, located at 499 East Street, operates a clubhouse available for weddings, reunions, and receptions. Finding number two, there are other uses in the commercial district of downtown that are similar. For instance, the Civic Auditorium and Lincoln Gardens, who host live music events, which would be similar to the proposed project. Finding number three, the police chief reviewed records pertaining to alcohol-related issues and found no heightened concerns with the proposed use. And finding number four, this finding is not applicable to this project as the project site is not located in a flood zone. This leads us to our recommendation. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, consider the information contained in staff report and testimony of the public, and take the following action. One, determine that the proposed project is exempt from CEQA. And two, adopt a resolution approving the conditional use permit to operate a live music venue, conduct sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages, and determination of public convenience or necessity within an existing building located at 645 Fifth Street in downtown Lincoln for the event center, with project-specific and typical conditions of approval as outlined in attachment 1. That concludes my presentation, and also the applicant is here in the audience. Stephen Pagano, if you have any additional questions.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Early on in your presentation, and I may have gotten this wrong, I think I heard you say mostly on the weekend, 1 to 4 days. There's some kind of restriction in this approval that preclude the occupant from, the applicant, excuse me, from having liquor sales and an event on 7 days?
On certain days? Or?
On 7 days?
Oh, David.
As opposed to every day? Maybe a better way for me to say it?
Yes. There is a condition of approval, number 10, which is on our attachment 1, that identifies like the range of anticipated events to happen during a calendar year. So it does, I know the applicant the early implementation of this project is anticipating maybe 25 events at the beginning, and then moving on up to have that up to like, I think it's 208 yeah.
So clear to the applicant what the intent of this approval is, and if something happened that they wanted to go outside of that, they'd have to come back in and have their use permit adjusted.
Correct, yeah.
Or requested.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
That would trigger modification.
Additional questions from the commission, please? Or any?
Just to piggyback on your question about 1 to 4 days per week, it's also 9 to midnight. Is that what they're requesting, or is that their limit? Because what if they wanted to go till 1 a.m.?
As part of the application submittal, that's what was included, like the anticipated hours for like weddings, from like if they're renting it out, the ballroom for a wedding, there's time to prepare, and then they would have access to the ballroom at 9 a.m. and then you end at 12. Other than that, it's more of like that's how it was described as a project.
Tony, can I piggyback on you just a little bit right there? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because it does say that they can serve an hour after the close of music. And so if that ends
True.
at midnight, then I would think they would be allowed to operate till 1.
Right.
That's,
My concern more is that if it says midnight, this is a great business for our city, and they had a great event going on, it went past midnight, that somebody couldn't make a claim later on that they went outside of their conditional use permit. I would like to give them more grace than be so limited to admit where they're running a business and are afraid we got to shut this thing down at midnight, or else our conditional use permit could be at risk. Right.
I do have comments from our chief that says he doesn't have any concerns with this. Their liquor license, which I assume they're going to get, is going to allow under California state law till 2.
Till 2, correct, and there's businesses.
So, I would tend to agree with my commissioners that why go in limiting them? And the first person who wants to book something wants to go till 1 o'clock because they celebrate something at 1 o'clock in the morning and say, you can't do that in this space. So
I just want to clarify that staff didn't set the hours, that
I
the
understand.
the applicant
We
did.
know
The
that.
the
We know.
applicant limited themselves.
Okay.
we understand that.
Okay.
We're looking out for the applicant. We're not in any way criticizing staff. So anyway, we can discuss this before we take our action, but I think your comments, I appreciate them for both. Is there any additional questions before I open the public hearing? I'd like to hear from the applicant. Harrington. Okay. We will then open the public hearing. Anyone that would like to speak during the public hearing?
I don't see any hands raised online. I don't see hands raised in the room. Are you requesting?
I'd like,
The applicant?
let's give the applicant the opportunity to speak if they like. If they don't want to speak, we'll close the public hearing. Okay, so we have no one speaking, okay? With that, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the planning commission. What is your desire?
Can I just want to add to that, I'm in favor of allowing more time. I don't know if the applicant has to agree with that, or if that's something we can do. Just, but, I share the same, thought of, why shut it down at midnight, especially when the liquor license can go until, what, 2 o'clock? That's what, typically see. So, okay.
If you'd like to make a friendly amendment, just to make that technical modification to the conditional use permit, we can do that as part of your motion.
Okay. And then I know we're kind of looking on like the ending time, but I don't know if there's any use looking at the beginning time. I know it starts at 9, but I don't know, or just leave it. But that's my thought is if it's possible to expand it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about that beginning time too.
Yeah.
Mostly because if you do have weddings, you probably want to do that a little bit earlier. You also want people going in to set up, which could actually be the morning before the wedding even happens. So I think we should take a look at all of these hours and, in the conditional permit here, add that where we would want to expand those hours of operation. Would you like to speak, sir? Oh, absolutely.
And I just wanted to add, sorry, in the conditions of approval, I kind of left it open-ended where I have condition number 6, hours of operation. By the end of business hours, all patrons shall have exited the commercial site. So it provides more flexibility unless the commission would like to specifically amend that condition to have a set hour times.
My name is Stephen Pagano. I appreciate your time. The ticketed event, the idea that 9 to midnight was a majority of the ticketed events we'd have. So if we had a comedy event or there were a concert or there was a whatever, that would really be in there. But you are in fact correct that there could be something great. Well, New Year's Eve party, for example, a big gala on New Year's would go past. And then you're right with weddings, quinceañeras. We're doing something for the women's club. They're doing a luncheon, so that's an 11 o'clock thing. A lot of the daytime stuff won't, alcohol is certainly not a part of our everyday game. But if somebody had a wedding that said, hey, we'd like to start at 11 o'clock in the morning and end at 3, and we'd like to have beer and wine, then yes, this would be a part of that as well. So to extend those hours and to look out for us that way, I sure appreciate it. Otherwise, I would have had to come right back again next week and reapply, I guess. But thank you.
And maybe we can just clarify real quickly, because as I'm reading the conditional use permit, conditions, there's not actually designated hours of operation. I think the explanation of 9 AM to midnight was more explanatory of what the applicant was considering. There's no limitation on the hours of operation other than to say when the business activity is done, all of the patrons are required to leave the building.
That's exactly why I initially started asking some questions, because I immediately thought about a wedding I was at recently. And the wedding was at 4 o'clock, and we socialized till, I don't know, after the wedding till 6 or 7. And then there was a dinner, and then there was a dance. So we went from 4 to maybe, not everybody stayed, but they went from 4 till 1 o'clock in the morning. And so I want to give them the flexibility so that they're not working outside of what's approved. And as someone said, someone, is critical of what they did, so.
The permit as drafted does not restrict their hours of operation. It only requires that all of the patrons exit the building within an hour of the close of business.
So that answers the concern that 4 of us had. Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
That's all, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments before I ask for a motion?
I just want to thank them for continuing to invest in the area. I know they have a great, thing going now, and it's great to see them getting involved further in the downtown area. So just want to thank them and glad that they're here.
Very proud of their success so far, and we hope that it'll be even better in the future. So, good. Chair will entertain a motion.
Well,
Go ahead.
oh, okay. I guess I'll move approval. Let's see, make sure I'm the right one. To determine that the project is exempt from CEQA, and a resolution approving a conditional use permit to operate a live music venue, conduct sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages, and determination of public convenience or necessity for the on-site consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits at the event center located at 645 Fifth Street in Lincoln.
Okay, Chair has a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. I think it's just an excellent use of the property and will be an attraction to business and activity in the downtown. I think it's a great project.
Thanks. We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchison,
Yes.
Commissioner Manning,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes, motion passes 7-0.
Commissioner Gilbert, now that we're done through that, I just wanted to make one, I didn't want to say this before we voted, but I also want to thank Mr. Pagano for bringing his son Stevie tonight. I think the family business, and I think it's awesome to bring your kid to see how the city works and to see what goes on, and that's great. And I do want to say too, I'd love Stevie to make this announcement. Can Stevie come up and say something? Can I ask him to come up? Yeah, Stevie, come on up here. Stevie's got a T-shirt on tonight, and I think we should all be proud because I know what it's about. But Stevie's a Lincoln kid, and he's part of a really successful band. And his band was just asked to play a pretty big show, probably one of the biggest shows of any band ever out of this town. Stevie, would you like to announce that?
So my band, Guilty as Charged, we are all from Lincoln, from ages of 14 to 17, and we are going to open up for LA Guns at the Whiskey Go-Go in Los Angeles.
Ooh, wonderful.
On Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. So that's a pretty big
And
show.
take some business cards from your new place with you.
Oh, for
See
sure.
if you can book some events.
Yeah, we definitely have music connections for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll look forward to seeing great success from both of you. So thank you very much for making the investment in Lincoln. And we'll work very hard to see that you're successful. Send us an invitation when you have something that we can attend.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Okay, we'll move on to item 9C. Accessory dwelling units ordinance. Take care. And thanks for waiting. Amendments, proposed text amendments to the Lincoln Municipal Code, Chapter 18.37, accessory dwelling units and related sections of Title 18 zoning as recommended by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. Staff report, please.
Well, hello again. Efren Sanchez, Senior Planner with Community Development
Our
Department.
money's worth out of you
Yes.
tonight.
The item we have before you is the proposed text amendments to Lincoln Municipal Code, Chapter 1837, accessory dwelling units, and related sections of Title 18, as recommended by the California Department of Housing and Community Development, or otherwise known as HCD. On July 23rd, 2024, City Council adopted Ordinance 1080B, amending the provisions of Lincoln Municipal Code, Chapter 1837, which regulating the use of accessory dwelling units in the city. On August 6, 2024, the adopted ADU ordinance was submitted for a 60-day review by HCD. And, on April 24, 2025, HCD provided written findings stating that the adopted ADU ordinance failed to comply with state ADU laws. The letter stated that although the city's ADU ordinance addressed many statutory requirements, additional amendments were necessary. HCD's comments included new 2025 ADU laws that came into effect January 1st, 2025. If you recall, we adopted the ordinance the previous year. Replacement of outdated statutory references, changes to provisions that conflict with or restrict rights granted under state law, i.e. limits on unit combinations, floor area, setbacks, and JADU locations. Lack of objective standards. And overall, the proposed text amendments are minor in nature. Accepting these minor text amendments will help the city obtain compliance with state ADU laws. CDD staff collaborated with the city manager's office and city attorney in reviewing and responding to HCD's 11-point ADU ordinance corrections, which was transmitted on June 13th, 2025. Subsequently, on June 24th, 2025, HCD reviewed and verified the proposed amendments to the ADU ordinance. Ultimately, HCD confirmed approval of the proposed amendments. Now that we have HCD's approval of the draft amendments, the Planning Commission is tasked with reviewing the proposed amendments and recommend City Council adopt the ADU ordinance amendment. The amendment process requires that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing on the proposed changes to Title 18 as outlined by Lincoln Municipal Code Chapter 18.92 amendments. This slide gives a sample of the proposed amendments. The rest of the proposed amendments can be found in Exhibit A of Attachment 1. As you can see, the proposed amendments are minor in nature, providing additional clarification from the state. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission conduct a public hearing, consider the information contained in the staff report and testimony of the public, and take the following action. 1, determine that the proposed amendments qualify for a statutory exemption. And 2, approve a resolution recommending City Council adopt the proposed amendments as part of an ADU ordinance amendment. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. Any public comments, please?
There are no hands raised online and there's no one in the room.
Very good. I'll close the public hearing quickly. I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission for your action. Chair will entertain a motion. No one has any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I view this as almost a ministerial action, bringing us in line with the state requirement. I don't see a lot of area where we can be creative here. I move approval to determine that the project is exempt from CEQA and that a resolution recommending City Council adopt the proposed amendments as part of an ADU ordinance amendment.
Thank you, Jerry. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. You need a roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Herzog,
Yes.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jackson,
Yes.
Commissioner Manning,
Yes.
Vice Chair Johnson,
Yes.
and Chairman Gilbert.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Handle 10A already. Item 11, CDD Director's Report. Floor is yours.
Well, good evening. Thank you. So just wanted to briefly bring your attention to the project tractor that we are attaching with every agenda and point out that that easement that you were talking about, Commissioner Johnson, is part of the Lincoln 14, which is still under departmental review. So we'll have an opportunity to take a look at that map and that easement to determine if a trail would be worthwhile in that area. Besides that, that the department is, in addition to working on this code analysis, we continue work on the downtown master plan as well as evaluating the truck routes within the city of Lincoln to determine if there is a feasible way to move logging trucks off Lincoln Boulevard. And the last time we met with the consultants, we had a very rousing discussion wherein I told them to bring every idea under the sun, regardless of cost, regardless of practicality, because I really think that removing any barriers to the possibilities it could be will be the best opportunity we have for a viable solution. So as we continue to move forward in that process, we'll keep you updated, and same thing with the downtown master plan. Besides that, I don't think I have anything else significant to report, but we are happy to take any questions. Some of you were able to attend some of the standing meetings that we are going to have every month. We do just request that you communicate with us if you're going to attend those standing meetings so that we don't have a Brown Act violation. And as items are ready to be on the agenda, we'll try to push those out as early as we can in advance of the agenda publication.
Thank you. I'll just make a comment on that. So I'm retired, and I used to work 80, 90 hours a week, raising a family, a lot of other obligations, and so I had to control my time very much so. There's others on this commission that enjoy the same kind of lifestyle I have. But I also appreciate that we have family people who are raising a family and working a career. And this is something new besides our regular monthly meeting. And I want to make it very clear that from my perspective, I don't have any expectation that you will allow these requests to be at additional meetings, to take more time away from your livelihood, your family, your avocation, your little league, whatever else you're involved with, that I will not consider that negative. I think that that's all a very important part of your life, and just mix this in the best you can. And I ask the staff to be as flexible as possible with my colleagues so that it's, again, not interfering with obligations they had the day they came on the Planning Commission. And if any of my colleagues would like to comment on that, I'd like to invite you to please do that.
Well, I have to concur with you. I too am retired and I don't have the burden of attending, but I certainly appreciate those that are not and would have the burden of attending. As someone who did attended, I thought it was a great opportunity for me, and I really welcomed the ability to have feedback with Mel and with Ephraim. So it was beneficial to me, and but I certainly understand the limitations because I used to be in that world as well. And thankfully, I'm not any longer.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're just looking for ways to make ourselves as available as possible to the commissioners. But we definitely understand that, many of you have full-time jobs and other obligations and responsibilities. We're going to kind of have like a standard time when we're available so that we can try to be as consistent as possible and less hit and miss. But we definitely understand that not everyone will be able to take advantage of that.
Any other comments?
I just want to say I appreciate that. I think that was probably directed at me and maybe another,
No.
but meaning, I really appreciate it because I still have birds in the nest at home, right?
I know
And,
you do.
right, and they're busy birds, right? And
Yes.
so, and I don't want to miss any of it. I've been gone for a month, living in a hotel with one of them and was able to make it home tonight for the meeting. So I appreciate that, but I do want to take advantage of that opportunity when I can. And I hope that the invitations continue to come, because if the emails don't always tell me when they are, I'll forget, right? So I appreciate that.
Tony, I asked staff to let me know if everybody was attending. And by way of, and the reason I asked that is because they said you might not be able to come. And she came back and said you were able to come. And then I saw why you maybe weren't able to come. And I reflected, on my life when my kids were the age of yours. I have grandkids your age. So that's why I made the comment. I want everybody here on this commission to feel that, we want you here all the time. But if you have something else, particularly, if it's family or if it's career oriented, et cetera, that's in some ways much more important part of your life than this planning commission.
I
So,
appreciate that.
sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo, appreciate that consideration. It's kind of, some of us are in that stage, so I appreciate that and trying to accommodate the best you can.
And we can also take action with only 4 of us if needed, so, which we did tonight on one item. Okay, any commission comments starting on this end?
Yes, the planning project tracker, we didn't discuss it, which is fine, we don't need to, except I thought it was very welcoming. I really appreciated having something like this. I'd like to see a date on it, because I'm a date person. In other words, looking at it with the current status, was the current status or waiting for feedback 2 years ago? There are many projects that we approve and then we never hear anything else. And the tracker is great to take a look at that, but it would also be nice perhaps to see, has it been 2 or 3 years? The one that I think of course, that I'm asked about constantly is the Ferrari Pavilion project that has been, every time that we talk, we're going to break ground in 2 months, and here we are. And so that would just be some feedback that I'd like to see some, whether yes or no, but I would like to see a date, if it's easily, be able to be determined how long something's been holding pending for review,
Like Dutch Bros?
Just to clarify, Ferrari Pavilion's a great example. This tracker does focus on the entitlement projects that are under review. So everything that has been approved in post-entitlement and improvement plan phase in construction is not included on this
I
sheet.
didn't see
So
it
for
on there.
example, Ferrari Pavilion wouldn't be on here.
Correct.
because
Right,
it's
yeah, I
past
didn't
those
see it on there.
phases.
I knew that. But still, I like to see dates if possible, and if it's not possible or
Yeah,
feasible.
we'll have to consider that because,
Yeah.
sometimes a project will be submitted and moving through this progress and then stall for a long time. We'll have someone, in fact, come back 3 years later and want to start up where they left off, and they can't at that point, right? Where we have to consider, changes in code, we have to consider changes in just the environment and et cetera. And so I think the date might be misleading or lead to questions of why is this on hold? And it could be a dozen different reasons.
A good example of that is actually the easement you referenced tonight as part of the Lincoln 14 project. A map was provided as part of the Lincoln Place map approval originally. Lincoln 14's been on hold for a while, but it's still technically an active application. We're waiting on a resubmittal essentially, but we don't have any activity on it at the moment. So there may be a way to kind of identify what projects are kind of on hold at the moment and that are kind of in the applicant's court in order to submit something.
I feel a little bit guilty because there was a time in my career where I used to say no to a developer or builder for a year or two till they got their finances in order and they couldn't get their project started. But I had to look out for the bank. I couldn't look out for the developer, but that's part of life. Okay, we'll go to this side. Commissioner comments, if you have any.
Good, thank you.
I was really pleased to see the format on the computer of the agenda and the staff reports. I only had to click it once and I could see everything. That was amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
but
our new,
Gary, you're the one who brought that up before.
Our
didn't have the
current city
solution,
clerk, our current city clerk is just working to ensure that we utilize the agenda management system to its fullest. And so she has recently made some changes in the formatting, the way we submit reports, the way the reports appear online, as well as the approval process. And so I will send you regards to Hope. This is all her.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, just a quick, exciting, sharing an exciting moment was the ribbon cutting for the fitness court, July 8th. So, last commissioner comment, it hadn't happened yet, so we were looking forward to it. But it happened. Just want to thank, city staff, manager, mayor, city council, commission, everyone that, supported that in the community and the public. It was a nice event, well attended. Some of you were there, so it was great to see you. And we had some community fitness groups there, representing, and some news stations and the congressman, assemblyman. So it was a good little event, and it's been great to see people using it. So just wanted to share that it's out there. If anyone is watching this, go check it out. And it's, hopefully people use it and take care of it.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Johnson, if I can kind of put a comment there. That's my neighborhood. When I drive by, I do see people using the fitness court. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear. Yeah, it is. It is exciting, every now and then when I'm going by there and use it a little bit, but to see people using it too.
That before or after you go to Starbucks? That's kind of a family joke. Okay, with that, we'll call the meeting over. Thank you all for your involvement tonight.